No career decision that I've ever said yes to have I regretted, but I definitely have said no. So great point that I think saying yes early on, especially when you don't have as many commitments at home, is do it. Like take the time, take those opportunities. They're absolutely incredible.
You also mentioned that you work in ties, but you mentioned it seems like a lot of teamwork for that special project, because I know that a lot of people come to me and say that, oh, I thought that we audit that you requires a lot of teamwork. Ties, you pretty much work individually, you don't work as a team. So that's a very good point to share with the audience that, hey, we have teamwork in both audit and ties as well.
Absolutely. I think, I feel like audit more often is together at a client site. I don't even know if they do go to client sites anymore. I know they still do inventory counts. Maybe a lot of that is changed since COVID, but very much, I couldn't do my job without the help of my team. Certainly I can do some things, but don't ask me to get in tax software anymore. You don't want me to do that. It's been way too long. But it really is like we need everybody kind of pulling their weight. And, whereas I may come in up here and just like help figure out a very complicated technical topic with the manager and with the client, I'm letting my manager, just like I was happy to have let run with things, run the day to day. So I do not like micromanaging. I love for the team to kind of run it. And then if they need help, they always know that I'm available. Ping me, set up a meeting, whatever you need. But I want to enable them or empower them to figure it out and do it themselves before they come to me, because I know how much more you learn that way. Also, I don't want to be naggy and bothering people. Now, sometimes I have to be. Like I'm going to have to bother somebody today to say, are we getting that out the door? Before the break. It's an AAR, so it kind of needs to be filed by the end of 2025. But for the most part, they know what they're doing. They're reaching out to specialists. They're, again, like I'm here for anything. And I love the super nerdy techie stuff, but I also want them to kind of grow and have the relationships. And I want them to be working with the clients. So I stay out of it as much as anyone will have me. But yeah, no, everything we do is in teams. If I had to do something from start to finish without my administrative team, without my state and local expert, without my international people, I don't think it would be very good if it was just on me.
It's going to be really tough if you have to do all of that by yourself, especially like you all the way high up now and you need the whole team to support you.
And it's way more fun. We used to have nights where, and again, this is back to when we used to be in the office. I went on a walk yesterday with one of my managers who's going to help watch my dogs while I'm gone. Because again, we're very close to a lot of my team. And I said, remember when we used to have to be in the office 5 days a week and Saturdays? And like, if you got to work from home on Saturday, that was great. Like that rarely happened. Like I'd go to school and then go to the office and be there all day. So definitely different than it used to be because we are not in all the time anymore. But it's so much more fun, I think, when you are getting to work with your team and have people that you genuinely enjoy, and that we do stuff inside the office, outside the office. Maybe it's community service. Maybe just doing something around the holidays or just, getting together and going for a walk, because those are the people you spend the most time with by far. And if you like them and enjoy them, it is a whole lot more of an enjoyable experience. Like sometimes I'll pop out of my office, and a couple of weeks ago, they were trying to figure out how to get rid of the hiccups. And I walked out to just stand upside down and swallow water. And I said, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to drown her? They're like, no, we're trying to get rid of her hiccups. But yeah, way more fun when you're doing that than sitting. I don't want to sit by myself and, punch on my computer all day. That's boring.
Oh, you make me remember. I think before COVID, I worked in the office until 11 p.m. and drove back to the apartment at that time. And the street was like empty. It's just like only me on the street and then green lights all the time, all the time. And it was like, wow, since COVID, I have been working from home. And so I was like, it's nice working from home, but sometimes I do miss the office environment, working late, and then we talk about a lot of, besides work, we talk about a lot of crazy things and like silly things to just stay awake.
Yep.
To get the job done.
I was gonna say the later the night, the sillier things usually get.
But again,
I think that's kind of part of the fun of it. And for those of you who have never been in an office setting or have only worked at home, it's so tough because it's like I don't want to be the person that says like you have to be in the office, but I feel like my people that are in the office, because most of our team is pretty regularly, understand why it's different and how much more you can progress in your career. I think too when you are in and around it all the time. And I always joke it's like learning through osmosis. Like you maybe not have anything to do with what they're talking about next to you, but you are hearing them talk about it. And I think you learn that way, even if you don't mean to and you're not trying to eavesdrop or whatever. But it's like, oh, they were talking about a case where there was transaction costs and why that was important. So maybe you don't know what happened with that, but next time you see transaction costs, you're like, wait a minute, I'm going to go ask them what they learned about that. So I feel like when you're at home, yes, we can all work from anywhere, obviously, but you miss out on so much of that teaming and that listening and hearing, or just like I might go grab someone and say, hey, come sit in my office and listen to this call and take notes, or just come in and listen and we'll talk about it afterwards. If I'm at home, I am probably not going to ping you, say, hey, do you want to get on this call with me? Because that's just like I'm a little bit out of sight, out of mind. So I feel like there is definitely a big bonus to being in. I'd never want to go back to 5 days a week. Absolutely not. I'm never in on Mondays. I'm only in my office today for Rosey and this podcast. But most of us are in probably Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I feel like that's really nice. And then no Fridays, no Saturdays, but certainly teaming is huge. Yeah, we don't do anything. I don't really know anyone that does anything alone, and I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to as well. And I also noticed that you work as a tax manager at PwC outside of US as well. Can you share some
Mhm.
experience about that and how you what made you decide to work outside of US for about 8 months, and what did you learn the most during that time?
Sure. So the client that I talked about that I was working on as a tax manager that had all this interesting stuff going on in the real estate world, it was a client based in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. And I don't want to say client, a different target client of the firm was looking for someone to come work in house for, it was originally 6 months. They wanted a tax manager and they wanted somebody that has had experience in large scale compliance, that was very organized, and that understood sovereign wealth funds. So sovereign wealth funds, for all you tax geeks, is section 892 of the code. There are a lot of great benefits. A sovereign wealth fund is generally a foreign government. So if you're a foreign government investing in the US, particularly in real estate, lot of great benefits. So that's just, that client that I had was a different 892 investor. So I had a lot of experience, and sort of the requests went out to lots of different firms, law firms, accounting firms all over the world. And they just said, or they came to me and said, we know you have this experience, is pretty spot on with what you've done in your career. Do you want to apply? And I was like, absolutely, yes. So let me just plug this in real quick. As I told Rosey when we were chatting earlier, I'm very much a yes person. I have always been someone that knew that getting outside my comfort zone would be better for my career, and how much you learn when you do get outside your comfort zone. So I applied. I thought, this is a long shot. I'm going to be one of however many people that apply. I will also say that I didn't get promoted to director, and I was very upset about it. However, maybe the best thing that had happened, because they weren't looking for a director, and I don't think it would have worked out if I had gotten promoted. So while I was bummed that it felt like I was taking not a step back, but that I was being held back a year, and I was frustrated at the time, things work out the way they're supposed to. So I applied. I got whittled down to one of the final couple, did multiple interviews with their team there. And like I tell everybody, I won. So I was the one that was chosen. So I moved to Abu Dhabi on Halloween on October 31st, 2010. I didn't know anybody there. I had never been to the Middle East, and people thought that I was crazy, but I just kind of thought, well, we're going to see what this is. So I was seconded to the client. So I still worked for PwC, still got paid by PwC, but I spent all of my time at this client. It was the best personal and professional experience I've probably ever had in my life. I never got to do study abroad in college because I was having to work. I couldn't take a semester off and not have a job. So I joke that it was like my paid semester abroad. They ended up extending it for 8 months. They did offer me a job at the end of it, but I was not looking to move permanently to the Middle East. But it was cool because it was like I had never wanted to work in industry, but I also never knew what working in industry was like. So I got to see what it was like as if I worked in industry at a client. But then I got to walk away from that at the end knowing industry is not for me. Like I said, had a great experience. I was so used to being so flexible in my public accounting life. So that was very different to not be. But I basically went into their tax department and took binders and binders and binders and tried to organize, and like how they didn't even know when I got there how many tax returns they were filing worldwide. So I went in, built them or helped the IT group build the system to track. And we kind of went through like many iterations of what do we want this to look like? What kind of information do we want to capture? Oh, wait, this jurisdiction has this kind of twice a year filing, whereas this one only has one, and this one has 1+4 estimates. So trying to make sure every investment they had around the world, we were tracking when it was due, what the name of the entity was, who was responsible, what firm was doing the work for it. And I got to help on active deals. So when they were looking to invest in X, Y, or Z, I'd go sit into a meeting with legal and say, okay, well, here's what I know about investing, especially if it was in the US. That's where mostly they brought me in because obviously that's where my expertise lied. I met one of my dearest friends. She was also a tax manager working at that client. She grew up in Australia. I grew up in the US. We joke that we are the same person. We just grew up on completely opposite sides of the world. And then we somehow came together in Abu Dhabi. So I made friends. Went to a million concerts. I went to Formula One races. We traveled a lot. It was so easy. It was like normal to just like jump on a plane and go to Oman for the weekend or Bahrain or Qatar, it was awesome. Hands down, like I said, best experience I've ever had. I learned a ton. I learned a lot about myself. It was like the first time in my life that I started living in the moment instead of always looking for what's next. Because like I said at the beginning of this, I was frustrated that I didn't get promoted because in my mind, I was always striving for something more, the next level, the next this, the next that. Being there for 8 months, I just lived. I enjoyed every day for what it was. I enjoyed the experience, all the experiences I was able to have. And when I came back from that, I did make director when I came back. So I got promoted, moved to Boston all at the same time because I really like to just start over and try new things. But everyone could tell when I came back from that experience that like my mindset had shifted in the things that I was worried about and the things that made me happy, that I wasn't trying to control every situation and I was just trying to enjoy. And it was great. Like I said, wouldn't trade it for the world. Didn't want to move there permanently. I've been back quite a few times to visit, but I'm also a warm weather girl. So living in 100-degree heat was right up my alley. It was a little bit odd. We work Sunday to Thursday. They have changed that since then. So now they're on a Monday to Friday work week, like the US. But so when I'd be in my office on Sunday morning, my friends in the US would be out on Saturday night. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm at work. It was all these holidays, all these Sunday holidays would end up, it's like, well, I'm working, but yes, amazing experience. Would highly recommend it to anybody. If you get an opportunity to go work overseas, take it. They paid for everything and I got to have more fun than I probably ever had.
That's amazing. Wow. It does sound like you had a great time there because I can see your energy. I can see
Mhm.
how excited when you share about that experience. That's
I got to ride a camel,
really
go dune bashing.
wow.
I was going to say, I will say this for industry. Not for me. However, it was the first and only time in my career that I didn't work nights and weekends because I had a work laptop I did not have a work laptop. I had a desktop at my office and I had to give up all my clients that I was working on before I went because I couldn't obviously work two jobs at the same time. So to not have to be on at night and to have all of my weekends free, that was very, very different and very nice. As it turns out, like I said, I think I do prefer the flexibility of every day making changes about where I want to be, not having to be in an office all day, every day. But I did love not having to work nights and weekends. So that made it easier to be able to travel and say yes to things.
Yeah, you mentioned that you love saying yes. And I know that saying yes to almost everything is may create the issue about boundaries because people say, oh, if you want to set your boundaries, you need to start saying no. But at the same time, I have a lot of conversations with other CPAs is saying that saying yes is just giving you more opportunities to learn more things. And then you may say no later in your career, but when you are early in your career, you should try to say yes as much as you can, or even for volunteering opportunities, because you never know where it can land you for the future job or the future plan. So that's why I want to ask what say yes. Have you ever been in the situation that you said yes, but then you also thought that, oh God, I wish I didn't say yes.
No, I would never. Every move I made, whether it was from firm to firm or city to city, I don't regret any of them. And I was literally having this conversation yesterday that I probably would not make some of the personal decisions I've made in my life over again. However, I'm a firm believer and everything happens for a reason. And I don't like having regrets because if I hadn't moved to DC and then started working on that one client that was based in Abu Dhabi, I never would have gotten the opportunity to go to Abu Dhabi. And if I hadn't have gone to Abu Dhabi, I wouldn't have met one of my best friends and I wouldn't have experienced all of that. And then I might not have gone to Boston where I have met, so many of my really close friends are from my time there. And then I might not ever have gotten this opportunity to come to BDO in Tampa. So like I'm very much everything happens for a reason. So no career decision that I've ever said yes to have I regretted, but I definitely have said no. So great point that I think saying yes early on, especially when you don't have as many commitments at home, is do it. Like take the time, take those opportunities. They're absolutely incredible. Once I made partner, I was like, I am saying no. I had said yes to everything. And the year before partner, 2 years before partner, like they'll tell you, say yes to everything. So maybe there was some stuff there that I didn't like particularly want to do, but they were small things. I don't even remember what they were at this point. I remember about a year in to being a partner, another partner came and asked me if I had any aspirations for leadership, to be in a leadership role. And I said, all I want to do right now is not coast in the sense that I was coasting in my career or with my clients or with my people, but I was like, nope, I don't have any aspirations for anything other than just making it through day by day through the next year because I needed a break from that. And so when the opportunity for this leadership role came up at BDO to move to Tampa, to move firms, and it all happened very interesting timing because a recruiter came to me in January of 2020. So before COVID, before we knew about COVID, at least probably existed at that point. We didn't know about it. I really wanted to get out of New England. I really wanted to be in Florida. I think I had realized that my time in or in Big Four was over, but I also didn't know what I wanted to do about it. I felt very like for the first time in my life, I don't know what I want to do. And I started talking to the recruiter. Then I started talking to folks at BDO because I didn't even know it was BDO at first. I had no idea what firm. And I signed the paperwork, I think on February 26, 2020. I had just bought a house in Boston after 8.5 years of renting. I finally bought something, put it on the market the first week of March, told PwC the first week of March. And then we went home for 2 weeks on March 13th or 14th or whatever that day ended up being. And then I never went back. And that was weird because I expected to have some big going away party. I had been in Boston for 9 years with my team there, made partner there. Like I really thought like, okay, we're going to do this big going away. And then COVID happened and I never went back. But I'm so thankful that's a situation that I might have said no to if it had come to me a month later, because I think I would have been really nervous about COVID and what that meant and if I should be moving to a new city. So I moved to Tampa in May of 2020 to a city I'd never lived in, where I knew basically nobody, to a firm I'd never worked at. And they wanted me to come and build a practice in Tampa. There was basically no tax practice. And also the world shut down. And I thought, what have I gotten myself into right now? Because that was not when I said yes. All of the other factors were different than they were. But I tell people all the time, I'm so thankful it happened the way it did, that the train had left the station, because I kind of felt like, well, I'm already moving. Like I might as well just go see what is in store. And it couldn't have worked out any better for me. I absolutely love my life here in Tampa. I met my husband here. We rescued our two dogs. I love my job at BDO. I love the team I've built. I love what I've been able to do here in the last 5.5 years. But it is a case where even me as a yes person might have said no if the timing had just been a little bit different. But I'm so, so, so thankful that I didn't, because as it turns out, I took this very scary situation and made it into this most incredible opportunity where, like, I got to build my team basically from the ground up, build my client base, build my people. And that has been probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my career.
Christina, your career is just so interesting.
It's definitely not typical.
Yeah, I wish I can have like the whole day talk to you and make this podcast like many episodes, and we still have a lot of things to talk about. I want to deep in more details about Florida transition, but I want to circle back to Boston first. That you move to Boston and stay in Boston for 9 years, but that also when you got promoted to director. So transitioning from manager, working as manager overseas for 8 months, and then came back to US, moved to another state, and then was promoted to the new role. What did you feel at that moment? Because you were like, oh, I didn't got promoted before 8 months ago, 8 months ago, but now I got promoted. What did you feel at that moment? What did you learn the most being as a director? And then what was the most difficult transaction moment for you from manager to director?
It was definitely scary being in a new office, because I have had to prove myself many times over. Every single time I moved, it was to a new group of people who didn't know me, and so that's a little bit harder to have to do that. I got very, I don't know if I want to say lucky, or maybe some of it's just my own doing. But I figured, okay, here's another opportunity to prove myself. And like, as you've heard, don't take anything lightly, and I don't shy away from it. So, I'm trying to think what that first year there was like. All new client, well, that too, all new clients and a lot more responsibility. I did mention that when I was a manager, I felt like I never really had a director working above me. But in this case, it really did feel like, even though I had partners on all of my clients, as there had to be a partner on everything, I still felt like maybe I was the last person in the line, and I needed to do things right and make sure I had everything covered. I do also remember sitting in meetings sometimes with partners talking to clients and thinking, am I ever going to be able to do that without having somebody else there? Like, am I ever going to be able to just be the person to do that? And you're not sure, because you don't know unless you don't know. But I had some great partners that kind of let me take the reins. I also had one case with a new to me client, not new to the firm, new to me, where we had a miss. And I think it was a 926 footnote or something. And I don't even know if I knew what that was at the time, but we missed it on delivery. And it was such an uncomfortable, like, oh no, I think maybe we had filed, but if we didn't tell them to file the 926, there's big penalties for not filing international forms. And so we were trying to, like, okay, how do we clean this up and make sure nobody has any penalties or interests that they otherwise shouldn't have had? And I just remember feeling like, oh my God, this is it. My career is going to be over. I made this mistake. And then it was very much, I feel like that client and I developed such a good, strong relationship through that experience, because I was the first to say, yep, we messed up. I missed it. We missed it. It was missed. And working through, how do we fix this? We'll do everything that we can to fix this, send letters, help you draft things, whatever needs to be done to get it fixed. And like I said, after that, like that was it was a terrible experience, but a really good one at the same time, because I just learned that things happen. Everyone's going to make mistakes. They absolutely happen. Almost everything in tax is fixable. Thankfully, we are not heart surgeons. No, we're not brain surgeons. But being able to just go to a client and say, yeah, we messed this up. We're going to fix it on our dime. Like, I feel like that goes so far. And that, I think, from a professional growth perspective, was huge for me. It's weird. It's like that period between director and partner. I don't know what one I want to say I remember it the least, even though it was the closest than some of these other experiences that I remember more. But I think a lot of it was just trying to build my book, start to position to, okay, what does making partner look like? Who do I need to get to know? Because I was in Boston in a very big office that had not spent my career in, and you needed a lot of support to make partner. And I always knew that that was what I wanted ultimately in my career. So starting to work with different partners, starting to get involved in different internal initiatives, anything that could put me in front of the right people, or the, more people that I needed to get to know. I feel like maybe that's what those 4 or 5 years entailed. Like I said, I don't remember anything like super crazy exciting or super crazy bad. I just kind of steady, you know, working through clients, learning a lot of maybe new things. I started doing more private equity around that time because there was a need on a very large client where the director was going out on maternity leave. She's having twins. So that was diving into, again, said, yes, absolutely, sure. Diving into a new client, a very, very large private equity client. So I started to learn more on the private equity side than just real estate. And then they decided that they were going to make me partner. And I didn't know it would happen that fast. I certainly thought, being in a new city and a new office, that I would maybe take longer than it did, but I feel like I had just done all the right things. And I think my whole career before that, of saying yes and putting myself in situations that were uncomfortable, was so normal to me. And I feel like that was really, really big in making partner. They wanted to see people that could reinvent themselves. Like, what if I'm trying to think something that's gone away or something that's new, but like we'll say like QOZ zones. I did not take over the qualified opportunity zone stuff, but another director did when that came out in the TGCA, and he kind of built his whole partner path on that because it was something new that he was willing to dive into and learn. But I think they want to see that you can pivot. Like, what if we go to a flat tax? What if, I don't know, Trump said a couple of weeks ago, we're getting rid of income taxes in a few years. So like, what if that happens, So I feel like that was always a big push on, you might be doing really well in your career right now, but what if something happens and that's not an option anymore? Could you pivot? Could you show that you can start over? And that's all I did for my entire career, as you've heard, was start over in a new office, on new clients, and prove myself over and over again. So I feel like that went a long way to getting to that point. But that too, that was July 1, 2016. So it'll be 10 years next July that I'll have been a partner, which seems kind of crazy that I've had almost the same career as a partner that I did leading up to partner. But that for me was really, that was a very special moment. I remember the day very clearly. I remember what I was wearing. I remember how they decorated my office when I came in. Somebody made me a K1 that I found clean when we moved. So I told Rosey before we started, we moved our office from across the hall to over here, the other side of the hall 2 weeks ago. So we had to clean out all of our stuff to move over. And I found the K1 that they made me, and it was so cute. And I was like, I'm going to keep that absolutely forever. It was a giant one on my window, but such a special time. And but I also tell people this because new things are scary. So my whole first year as partner, I was just trying to be not found out that I shouldn't be a partner. So a little bit of imposter syndrome, a little bit of, wait, should you have made me a partner? Am I ready for this? I don't know that I am. And I think that's a little bit of a woman thing as well, that we want to be like 100% ready before we do things, whereas you just never, ever will be, I think, until you get there and do that. But as my partner sponsor told me one time, he said, I think your bar for you is here. I think everybody else's bar for you is here. And you're probably somewhere between the two. So you're well over what everybody else wants. But my bar has just always been so high for myself that it's like, I don't know. Should I be a partner? Like, am I ready for that? Are you guys crazy? Did everybody make a mistake? So I laugh that first year was really just trying not to be found out. That maybe I shouldn't have been a partner. And now 9 years later, I can laugh about that because it's like, well, if you're going to move up, like that's how it works. And then the next crop of people move up and, you don't always know exactly what you're doing or how you're going to do in that role until you get there. But here I've made it and I've made it 9 years now and nobody has found me out. So
You're so funny.